Hello, and welcome back to Hope is Kindled, the little campfire where we gather around stories that sharpen the mind, steady the heart, and sometimes save us. Today, we're leaping, literally, into Fly by Lex Gillette. It's a slim, high-voltage book that distills decades of training, loss, grit, and astonishing vision into principles anyone can use to get unstuck and take off. Published in 2020, running about 160 pages, Fly reads like a coach in your corner, short chapters, clear practices, and a through line of resilient optimism from one of Team USA's most decorated Paralympic athletes. It will not take long for you to see why we included it in our work. Lex Gillette's story is both heartbreaking and galvanizing. As a young boy in Raleigh, North Carolina, he began losing his sight due to recurrent retinal detachments. After 10 surgeries, the doctors said the words no parent ever wants to hear. His vision would not return. His mother, like all true heroes, met that darkness with love and honesty. She promised 2 things: that she'd always tell him the truth, and that she'd teach him everything he needed to thrive. And he did more than that. He became living proof that sight and vision are not the same thing. From that foundation came a life of almost mythic accomplishment: 5 Paralympic silver medals in the long jump, Athens, Beijing, London, Rio, and Tokyo, plus multiple world titles and records. Imagine it: a blind athlete sprinting full speed toward a board he cannot see, trusting only the cadence of his guide's call, then leaping into the unknown. That isn't just athleticism. That's a practiced theology of trust. Lex's mantra.
No need for sight when you have a vision.
It isn't just a slogan. It's the spine of his life and work. Fly is part memoir, part playbook. Lex translates track and field wisdom into life wisdom. Define a clear target. Align your environment. Build a trusted team. Accept feedback. Rehearse the jump. And commit. It's warm, direct, and deeply human, the kind of voice you want in your ear when the runway feels too long. If you're new to Lex, this book is your on-ramp. If you already know him, it's a field guide to his mantra, proof that vision is a muscle you can train. Lex's story is a living example of psychology in motion. Lex doesn't preach mindset. He demonstrates it. And that's the secret. Most mindsets are just small behaviors repeated daily until they become character. Let's talk about hope. Because in Lex Gillette's world, hope isn't a mood. It isn't a passing feeling that drifts in when things are easy and disappears when life gets hard. Hope, for Lex, is something sturdier. It's something you can hold. It's a map. And like any good map, it doesn't remove the mountains. It just shows you the trail that climbs them. Hope is made of choices, of habits, of directions. And Lex shows us, in every leap, that hope can take shape in 4 powerful ways: as clarity, community, ritual, and courage. Hope as clarity. Before Lex ever takes a step down that runway, he knows where the board is. He has measured it, memorized it, and marked it in his mind. In life, that's our first act of hope: to name the board, to say out loud what we're aiming for. Maybe it's making 3 honest phone calls. Maybe it's writing 2 pages of something you've been afraid to start. Maybe it's simply walking 20 minutes today, because that's what you can do. Vague wishes can't be trained. Clear goals can. When we define our aim, we give our energy somewhere to go. We create a direction for faith to follow. Clarity doesn't guarantee an easy landing. It just keeps us from running in circles. Hope as community. When we watch Lex fly, it looks like a solo act, a man and his shadow racing toward the unknown. But in truth, every jump is a symphony of voices, footsteps, and belief. The guide who claps and calls. the coach who studies the footage, the mother who said, "We'll learn together," the teammates who cheer when he lands. Every flight depends on a chorus of support. Hope grows stronger when it echoes back to us through the voices of those who believe we can make it. That's the hidden beauty of Croc. Community. It keeps us tethered when we can't see the board ourselves. Sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is trust someone else's rhythm until we find our own again. Hope is ritual. Warm-ups, drills, film study, sleep, nutrition. Those aren't glamorous moments. They're quiet, repetitive, ordinary. But that's exactly where transformation lives. Miracles don't arrive fully formed. They accumulate in the habits we keep when no one is watching, in the stretches and notes and silent laps that look like nothing, but prepare us for everything. Our lives change in those quiet repetitions. That's where discipline becomes devotion. That's where practice becomes prayer. And when the day comes to sprint down the runway, those small rituals whisper back to us, "You're ready." Hope as courage. Courage, in its purest form, is commitment under uncertainty. It's running toward a board you cannot see because you've already decided who you are. Lex shows us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move anyway. It's motion powered by meaning. And meaning, when nurtured, becomes momentum. Every one of us faces our own version of that runway. A job interview, a diagnosis, a loss, a new beginning. And the moment comes when we have to take the step, trust the rhythm, and leap. Not because we can see where we'll land, but because we've built the faith to believe that we'll find our footing when we do. Hope is not the soft thing we often mistake it for. It's the muscle that keeps us moving. It's the compass that stays true when sight fails. And in Lex Gillette's world, it's what turns every blind sprint into a masterpiece of trust. Now that we've explored how Lex Gillette defines hope as clarity, community, ritual, and courage, let's look at what that actually looks like in motion. Because Fly isn't just philosophy, it's a manual. It's a guidebook for getting off the ground when you've been standing still too long. Lex doesn't hand you lofty ideas you see. Gives you small, repeatable actions, habits that rewire the mind, reshape the day, and remind the soul what forward feels like. Here are 5 practices from Fly that you can start today. 1. Write the board. Before Lex takes his EA. First step, he knows exactly where he's going. The board, the mark where his foot must land, isn't a mystery. It's a promise. In life, we need the same thing. 1 sentence, written in the present tense.
I run my first 5K this fall.
I record episode 1.
I call my sister and reconcile.
It doesn't have to be poetic. It just has to be clear. Write it down and put it somewhere you'll see it every single day, on your desk, your mirror, the lock screen of your phone. Because what we see often enough becomes what we start to believe. And belief, in motion, becomes reality. 2. Build your runway. Every athlete knows that the jump doesn't begin at the board. It begins in the build-up, the smooth, open stretch that lets you find your stride. Your life has a runway too. But for many of us, it's cluttered. Remove 1 friction point, just 1. Delete the app that steals your time. Clear the drawer that reminds you of what you're not doing. End the habit that keeps you from taking that first step. Friction steals more dreams than failure ever will. Success, in most lives, isn't a matter of willpower, it's a matter of design. Create space. Clear the path. Build the runway you'll need to fly. 3. Recruit a caller. No one leaps alone. Not even Lex. At the end of that runway, there's always someone calling, clapping, counting, guiding him forward. That voice is his rhythm, his direction, his faith made audible. We need that too. Find one trusted person and tell them your goal. Ask them to clap and call for you. Maybe not literally, but through texts, check-ins, or small acts of accountability. Because accountability isn't about pressure, it's about partnership. When someone else knows what you're running toward, the silence around your fear gets smaller. And in that space, courage grows. 4. Rehearse the jump. Every world-class leap begins with practice, tiny, unremarkable, and constant. Lex calls them micro-reps, 20 minutes of focused effort. Then, stop. That's it. No all-nighters. No grand declarations. Just consistent, faithful practice. Consistency beats intensity every time. It's not about doing everything today. It's about doing something today and again tomorrow. That's how endurance becomes identity. That's how discipline turns into freedom. 5. Journal the sand. When Lex lands, there's always sand. That sand tells a story, the mark of where he touched down, the imprint of how far he's come, the adjustments to make next time. In life, that's reflection. After each attempt, write 2 lines. What worked? What to adjust? Don't overthink it. Don't rewrite history. Just notice. Every landing is feedback, not fate. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is. And over time, those small notes become your personal flight log, proof that you are, in fact, moving forward. These 5 practices may sound simple, but together, they form a rhythm, a way of living that keeps hope in motion. Write the board. Build the runway. Recruit a caller. Rehearse the jump. Journal the sand. Do them faithfully, and you'll find what Lex found. That flight doesn't begin with wings. It begins with the decision to run. When you start to live this way, naming the board, clearing the runway, trusting a caller, showing up for the small rehearsals, and learning from the sand, you begin to understand Lex Gillette's story on a deeper level. Because these aren't just metaphors to him. They're the lived physics of his life. Every principle in fly is something he earned, through silence, through repetition, through faith. So let's take a moment to step back and look at the journey, not just of one athlete, but of what hope looks like when it grows up and takes shape in a human being. Raleigh, North Carolina. A boy with limitless curiosity and a wide, contagious smile. When Lex was 8 years old, the world began to blur. Recurrent retinal detachments, followed by 10 surgeries that could not stop the inevitable. His vision faded, and eventually, darkness settled in. But his mother's voice did not. She made him a promise. I'll teach you what you need to know. It wasn't just comfort, it was conviction. It was the sound of a mother planting hope where cough. Sight had been taken. That promise became Lex's first runway. What began as local practices and school meets soon became national trials. And then, the world stage. Athens in 2004, Beijing in 2008, London in 2012, Rio in 2016, and Tokyo in 2021. 5 consecutive Paralympic silver medals in the long jump, an achievement that borders on the mythic. 2 decades of consistency, grace, and relentless drive. Behind every medal is the same rhythm. The guide's voice calling through the air, the sound of footsteps, the leap into trust, the soft explosion of sand, each jump, a declaration of faith that we can run toward what we cannot see and still land where we are meant to be. From athlete to speaker, from competitor to coach, Lex's mission has expanded far beyond the track. He's carried his BP. Mantra? No need for sight when you have a vision, into classrooms, conference halls, and communities around the world. He leads workshops on leadership and resilience. He speaks to companies and schools about seeing with purpose. He helps others write their own boards, build their own runways, and listen for the voices that call them forward. Fly gathers these lessons into a compact, luminous volume, a book small enough to fit in your bag, but strong enough to change your trajectory. It's not a story about triumph over disability. It's a story about what happens when faith, focus, and purpose become muscle memory. And perhaps most beautifully, it's a reminder that the same physics of flight that carry Lex across the sand can lift us too, if we choose to trust, to train, and to leap. Listen. You can almost hear it. The clap, clap, clap of the guide's rhythm. Each sound is a pulse of faith. For sighted athletes, success is about mechanics, body, angle, takeoff. For Lex, it's about relationship alignment, synchronizing trust, timing, and memory with another human being. That's why this story transcends cliché. It isn't despite blindness, it's through it. The constraint becomes the craft. And that's the brilliance of Fly. It invites us to transform our limits into launch pads. Don't deny the limit, design with it. If you're facing a class, a tryout, a difficult conversation, or maybe just a blank page, start small. Write the board. Ask for a color. Do one rep today. Tomorrow, another. In a month, the runway will feel different. In a year, you won't recognize the person who was afraid to begin. Lex Gillette, thank you for living a message that calls the rest of us forward. And to the families, coaches, teachers, and friends who clap and call for others, your unseen rhythm keeps our hope alive. Wherever you are, at the starting line, mid-air, or dusting off sand, remember, we don't need perfect conditions to move. We need a clear board, a faithful rhythm, and the courage to sprint into what we can't yet see. Good journey.